Hey, can you believe it? The end of week 6. 2 more weeks to go. Um, we haven't talked in a couple of weeks. I think everybody did very well on the midterm. I'm pleased with the progress you're making. Thank you for the hard work you're putting in. I hope everybody sees when I correct your papers, I write notes into Blackboard, and I hope you all take the time to read that and engage in the thoughts I'm giving you. That's sort of what I like. I find that the online teaching gives me an opportunity to be much more personal with you than the classroom teaching, because I'm individually reading what you're writing and you individually get to read what I have to say back. If you want to react to any of the things I'm writing to you on Blackboard, then please feel free to do so. Sometimes I just grade it, and that means I don't have much to say. It's good and so on. There's no specific comment I have. Couple of things in general that I'd like to just make. Remember when we talked about the guy, pushing the big guy off the train, that dilemma? One thing that most people didn't think about, and I just would like to, put this into your thought, is no action is an action. So if you fail to do something, if you walk by, somebody's sinking, somebody's drowning, and you walk by, and you don't do anything, or you wait too long to decide, that's a failure to act. In the church it says, in the confession it says, forgive me what I have done and what I have failed to do. And so the church very specifically talks about both of those things. And when you examine your conscience, I think it's an important thing to think about what you haven't done, that you could have done, the good you could have done and you didn't do. That's something that I think plays into that. I'm not saying you should push the guy off the bridge, but also I don't say you shouldn't. I'm just saying if you don't, that's an action. Yeah. So that of course has a connection to this week in your life plan. I hope you're having fun with that, and I hope you take it seriously and actually do that life plan. That's something that will help you in the future. Remember, you don't have to. Sometimes this could feel overwhelming for you to say, now I have to write this life plan down, and what is he asking me? Remember, you can always change this. But if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a compass and a map of going towards something, then life happens to you. Other people's priorities become your priorities. What other people think you should do is what you end up doing if you don't take this into your own hands and say, this is what I want to do. It's again, no decision is a decision. Not having a life plan, not having an objective is a plan as well. The absence of a plan is indeed a plan as well. A word now, I want to really dumb down the 3 frameworks, because I think there's still a little bit of difficulty in determining which framework is being used, is being applied, or which of the frameworks you want to apply. So again, for simplicity, I'm only talking about 3 frameworks: utilitarianism, relativism, and virtues ethics. There's outgrowths of all of those, but these are sort of the main schools of thought. And I'll give you my own cheat sheet of how I look at this. If you look at relativism basically ends up saying that there is no such thing as truth. You can't ascertain the truth unless there is a physical, scientific proof, 1 and 1 equals 2. But that's not even true as well either. You can go with, there's a binary system, there's a decimal system, it's not so sure whether 1 and 1 is 2. Whether something is right or wrong is completely relative. We as humans cannot ascertain any kind of truth. We don't know what's up, we don't know what's down. There is nothing you can hold on to that gives you any kind of security of knowing this is right and this is wrong. So So relativism is the absolute absence of truth. Utilitarianism says that truth is pleasure. Whatever is pleasurable is truth. The good is the pleasurable. And specifically the pleasurable with most people involved. As many people as pleasurable as it gets. Of course, that pleasure is usually derived towards physical pleasure. That starts with eating, feeling good, having something. It's a materialistic vision of utility. What is pleasurable to you physically is also good. So so relativism says there is no truth. Utilitarianism says pleasure is truth. And the virtues ethic says that truth exists independent of you. Whether you say, oh, it depends, this truth doesn't apply to me. You have your truth, I have my truth. I stand on top of the building and say, I'm going to jump down. You may say there's such a thing as gravity, but I don't think so. For me, that doesn't apply, and off I jump. Except I also do that in terms of spiritual or philosophical issues. That I say, no, being negative or psychologically mishandling or abusing somebody, you may say to you that's not true, but to me that's true. You may think that's an evil act to do. I don't think that's an evil act to do. Because in my universe, you can basically define your own thing. Let's see here. Now I think I just got a bit off track. Virtues ethics. Let me go back. Virtues ethics says that there is a truth outside of you. Whether you believe it or not, truth is independent of you. That's what I mean to say. Truth is completely independent of you. Whether you believe it or not, it still exists. Gravity exists whether you believe in it or not. There are things that you can ascertain, that we can all ascertain with reason, that leads to a certain truth that is there for humanity to understand. And that truth is so because it leads to lasting fulfillment and happiness. Again, pleasure and happiness are two different things. Pleasure is a physical sensation. Happiness is an emotional, psychological, and spiritual feeling or experience. I think this virtues, one way to show that the world at large really does agree with the virtues ethic is because if you go, there's no court, no law system in the world that doesn't have one specific defense, and that is a defense of not guilty by reason of insanity. Just the fact that we're saying that somebody could be not guilty by reason of insanity means that there is a certain thing that is the truth, and if you don't get that, you're abnormal. If you just start to shoot around at people, you may say that's normal for you, but we would all say, you know what, you're crazy. Your reason is impaired. You're not normal, therefore we won't even hold you to it because you're crazy and you don't know what you're doing. So I think that in itself is an explanation of the fact that most of the world uses virtue ethics. There's an increasing amount in our culture, and you and I are both very strongly influenced by this at this time. There's a very strong tilt towards relativism at this point, where we say, well, you live in your world and I live in my world, and we can't ascertain who's right. Let me say something about this, how I would counter that. You see, we can both see a different part of the truth, but that doesn't say the truth doesn't exist. You look at the back of the elephant and I look at the front of the elephant. There's only one elephant there. What tolerance means is for us to agree that we're looking at the elephant and we may not have the same perspective, but that doesn't challenge the fact that there's only one truth. Logic would deny there could be two truths. We don't live in parallel universes here as long as we're physically alive, at least. So so tolerance includes saying, well, maybe you look at a different part of the elephant or not, but it's still one elephant and it still has to pertain or be within part of the elephant you see, so to say, still has to apply to human and comply with human reason. If it's not reasonable, then it's crazy for reasons of insanity. Yeah. Now, as far as when you try, I saw some of you gave me the examples of which of the three frameworks are being applied in different business situations that you found. It's of course easy to come up with relativism or utilitarianism as an example. I said this is what that is. But you see, when it feels mixed, use this as your litmus test. Use this as your rule of thumb. Yes, it could be useful. Yes, it could be pleasurable. Yes, it could be applying in certain situations and maybe more so for some than others. But why did you do it? Why did this person do it? Not in the, not afterwards looking back, but why did this person do it? Did they do it out of a certain virtue or a certain truth? That they're saying this is right, then that's truth. Yeah? So they would pursue this in a virtuous way. This very much shows in the morality of the human act that we read, and I think, by the way, you've done a wonderful job. All the essays on that were really great. I really enjoyed reading your summaries of that essay. But again, there you see the motivation behind of this. Was this just to say, you know what, I think everybody should just do whatever they want to do, or you know what, I think the more pleasure the better, so this is what I'm going to decide? Or did somebody decide, you know what, this is, I believe in a deep truth, this is what's the true thing to do, therefore I'm going to do this? Or out of a virtue of a practice for excellence, that the person thought that this is the excellent thing to do, and that's why they do it. I think if you look at it like this, you start to see more and more that there are a lot of people who act based on that framework of virtue ethics, and hopefully you see more easily how you yourself differentiate between those three ethics frameworks. And rest assured, I think it's not a clear case that everybody does one or the other. It's always a bit mixed up. But I just would like us to get to a point where we can clearly identify our decisions before we actually act, to say which of these am I acting on and why. So next week we'll do social doctrine, Catholic social doctrine, a very interesting topic. I have the video that you can see on that, and then and I look forward to reading from you. I stopped doing the Tuesday evening thing because nobody showed up. So if you want to have a Skype conversation with me, or you want to talk with me or so, then just send me an email and we'll do it one-on-one. I'm flexible and I'm happy to chat with you and go over anything you'd like. Have a great weekend.